So the question is, how did we get here? We're going to try to explain this, so stick with the story. It starts with Argentina's first default back in 2001. The country owed its creditors around $100 billion. Over the next 9 years, the government worked out a pair of deals to restructure the debt, so to speak. Bondholders agreed to accept interest payments worth about $500 million. But hedge funds who owned the Argentinian debt held out. They wanted all their money back. They took the case to a U.S. District Court and won. But Argentina refused to give in, and they fought it. They escalated it to the U.S. Supreme Court. Last month, justices decided not to get involved. Then mediators were brought in to negotiate at the table. At one point, there was talk of a group of Argentinian banks to buy out the hedge fund debt, but at the last minute, that all fell apart. And that's where we are now. Last night's default affects all of Argentina's creditors, not just the hedge funds. We want to know what happens next. Alberto Bernal Leon is head of research and partner at Bulltick Capital Markets, joining us live from Miami. Good to see you, sir. So I hope I did it justice by laying the groundwork, because this is probably the worst case scenario when you have bankers and politicians trying to agree to something in a room and it's not likely to happen. And we saw what happened last night. Explain to our viewers why we should be worried about it, or maybe not.
Well, I actually think, Philip, that since this is such a different default, because as you said before, actually the Argentines paid the money. So it's not like Argentina doesn't have the money. They have the money, and they actually wire the money to the Bank of New York. So the real incredible thing is that the money is sitting there. The bondholders are waiting to get the money, but they can't because there's an injunction from the U.S. justice system.
Yeah. If you don't mind, let me explain to our viewers what you're talking about here. The injunction pertains to the Bank of New York distributing basically interest payments to all the bondholders. The injunction is either you pay all of them or you pay none of them. The problem is they have not all agreed. I mean, that's still the crux of the issue, right?
That is the crux of the issue. The money is in no man's land, so nobody knows what's going to happen with this. And I guess maybe tomorrow's meeting with Judge Griza, they may address some of the issues that you and I are talking about. Now, you asked me why is this important for the world? Actually, let me be a little bit of a cynic, Philip. This really doesn't matter. This really doesn't matter for the rest of the world. This is a very localized issue. I guess that the market tanking today, some people blame it on Argentina. Trust me, Philip, this didn't have anything to do with Argentina. This is a very small problem. It is a very localized problem, and this will only affect Argentinians. And here's how it will affect Argentinians. The problem is that Argentina needs to regain market access. Why? Because they're running a fiscal deficit. Since they can't borrow money from anybody, they're printing money. And when you have a country like Argentina printing money, you may go back 30 years and remember the questions of hyperinflation. So people remember those things. And when they read on the papers that the government is printing a lot of, the central bank is printing a lot of money, what do? They go and buy some dollars. And when everybody goes and buys some dollars at the same time, then the shadow exchange rate, which is the parallel exchange rate, starts going up and up and up and up.
All right. I don't want to get too complicated, but I do thank you for your explanation. Now, one of the issues we had with Europe when Greece fell apart was we were worried about its neighbors. This time with Argentina, do we have any level of concern about any of the neighbors in South America?
I sincerely don't. You may see some kind of volatility on the stock exchanges, but as basically waiting for a repeat of what we saw in 2001 when Argentina took down Uruguay and seriously affected Brazil, I don't think so.
So here's the question a lot of people have asked me is, why wouldn't Argentina, given that it's not a huge dollar amount, why don't they just pay it out, whatever billions it is, they have the money, just pay it and this problem would all essentially go away. And what I've heard is that, well, in 6 months, by the end of this year, if they can make it past that, then those bondholders that they would ultimately have to pay all this money back to, they won't have a claim anymore, and therefore they would sign a deal, I guess, in the beginning of next year, and all is forgiven. Is that a possibility?
Well, actually, it's a little bit more complicated than that, Philip, but let me just say one thing. Actually, Argentina could pay today, but the person that signs the check to the holdout community that person could be liable for a significant amount of jail time if something happens, which is that the rest of the bondholders that participated in the 2005 and 2010 exchange, they go to the justice system of whatever, Argentina. And then some judge says, yeah, you, Mr. Finance Minister, you signed this check, you gave more money than everybody else, that you gave to everybody else, therefore you are liable for making Argentines poor or something like that. And then you are, it's your, you know, your body, you're an
I would think the bigger problem is if I'm giving you all your money back, I want all my money back too. And all these people that agreed to take that haircut or discount, whatever you want to call it, everyone will say, hey, I want all my money back as well.
Exactly.
And apparently in a few months, that legal aspect goes away. I wish we had more time on this. I apologize. Sure. Alberto Bernal, Leon, great to have you live from Miami, head of research and partner at Bulltick Capital Markets, helping us understand why we should, or in some cases, not care about this particular issue if it's localized.